I had this customer, her name is Jill. Jill started as a pretty escalated customer. She went through like several layers of, escalation, like different people, and no one was really like helping her the way that she wanted to be helped. And so she was like, I love this product and you can't get it to me. The product was frozen, but it kept arriving warm. And she was really upset because she just wanted the product. My hunch was like, people are canceling their subscription with us, not because they don't want the food, but because we can't successfully deliver it to them.
Welcome back to How to Love a Customer, the show where we dive into the wild, wonderful, and sometimes downright weird world of customer experience. I'm Mikhail, one of the founders and CEO at Chattermouth, and in each episode, we talk to the people behind great brands, people who know that customer interactions, even the messy ones, are the moments of truth. And today, my guest is Victoria Weiss, Senior Director of Customer Experience at Smalls. Victoria, welcome to How to Love a Customer.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Fantastic, Victoria. It's really great to have you. And before we dig into the customer anecdote that you bring us today, can you tell us, the listeners, the viewers, a little bit more about yourself? How did you first get into customer experience? I know it's a very interesting journey you've had through the DTC world in particular. We can maybe unpack what DTC means for the viewers. But I know you work at Little Spoon, and you're now at Smalls, to kind of very exciting brands. But yeah, I'm interested to get a bit more about the journey.
Yeah. So I've been in the CX space for about a decade now, and I think like a lot of people in this space, I kind of accidentally fell into it. I went to school for art and then realized that I didn't know what I was going to do with that. And, I didn't really have any like graphic design experience. It was more so like drawing and painting. And so I was like, cool, I don't want to be a starving artist. Let me see what I can actually like do. I knew that I really loved, taking care of people. I'm super empathetic. And I stumbled into a job at Rent the Runway where I was working on the CX team there. What I really loved about it was like, connecting with people on a one-on-one level, really having the opportunity to make a difference for people at any scale. And so I just like stuck with CX and, continue to evolve and grow within the space. Yeah, I think it's like also a really cool, place where you can like think creatively in different ways. And so I think you'll find there are a lot of creative people in CX, but yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And I stayed because I wanted to continue taking care of people.
And so you started as an agent, right? At Rent the Runway. That must have been. You must have a lot of interesting stories there. I think, like because every interaction is some sort of special event, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like high stakes every single conversation.
Well, Victoria, can you tell us a little bit more about Smalls? What your current role entails. So obviously you are not at the front line anymore, right? So yeah, what does a day in the life look like for you?
Yeah. So Smalls is a really cool company. I've been here for about 4 months. And really what we're doing is we're building a brand for cats and for the people who love them. So, that goes down to like the food that we're selling, but also to, the toys and the accessories and even like having a space where people can, talk about their cats. And it's cool because there are all of these like dog food companies out there. And this is kind of one of the only cat food companies. Yeah. So what I'm doing right now is, really leading the team to like the next level, right? We have like the foundation, we have like, our inboxes and all of those things, but I'm kind of taking it to like the next strategic level of how can we be proactive? How can we build loyalty and really dive into company-wide metrics like retention at scale? So yeah, it's been really, really cool. And I think that my agent experience has helped me kind of empathize with our agents at the company and, build an experience that works really well for them and empowers them to take care of customers in a way that will unlock that next level of support.
Awesome. Victoria, thanks for this context. And, the whole GTC sector, is something that has always fascinated me. Obviously, like, the sector was something that like was super, super promising at some point. But then a lot of the early kind of champions, including some of my personal favorites, didn't quite maybe live up to the expectations in the past. And it's kind of notoriously very difficult, I think, to build that like great customer experience there. So what how does it impact the importance of customer experience? Like, what have you found, like, through your whole career? I think you've been, like you mentioned, Rent the Runway, and I know you've been at Little Spoon just before you started in this role, right? What have you found, like, is something that like maybe people underappreciate about what it takes to succeed in DTC?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that like with D2C specifically, CX and support is like one of the most important things. I mean, apart from actually selling the product and, the other elements that go into it, but customers like expect you to have incredible support. And if you don't, then you kind of like lose all of the trust that you've gained or built within those customers. So I think that's something that's really interesting and has been really fun for me because I've been able to say like we need to invest in CX in a way that is more than a cost center, and it really is like investing in one-on-one relationships with customers. I think that's also what's different with D2C is we do have the opportunity to actually talk to our customers and like know who they all are. We have a lot of data. We can really like segment customers and then like find the best ways to interact with them and the best ways to retain them. And so that's like something that's really unique and powerful and allows you to drive those personalized conversations at scale. I think what's challenging is like companies like Amazon set the expectation that customers can get their order or like a box next day or same day. And that is like, typically not possible, especially with a subscription service and delivering food and the complex supply chain. So that's an area that I find is really challenging with meeting customer expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I'm obviously not a customer because I don't have a cat, but my sort of guess would be that like it's in your case, customer service is even more important because like people can't actually check the product, like you can't actually eat the food, right? So you're sort of relying on like a secondhand experience from your cat, but they're notoriously unreliable
Yeah, exactly.
witnesses.
Exactly.
So you kind of like customer experience is kind of the only differentiator, right? But I'm curious, kind of when you say like you've told the business that like they need to think about customer experience in a different way, which maybe they really kind of resonated with, which is why they brought you in. But were you able to maybe at Smalls or in other places kind of prove that this actually does? Like, do people first, or do people ask you to prove that this actually works, in
Yeah.
terms of the bottom line? And have you actually observed that yourself
Yeah.
one way or another?
Yeah, I think that like luckily as time has progressed in this space, there has been like less of a need to prove it and people are actually seeing it with other companies. Like I think Chewy is a great example of a company that like has invested in CX and it's like paid off in big ways. I have definitely had to prove it. So like before joining Little Spoon, I was at Daily Harvest and I think like in that time period it was like still like before there was this big explosion with CX. And so like I spent a lot of my time really proving that like one, we have really incredible insights that should be leveraged across the business. So like building out a voice of customer program and like trying to force my way into meetings and talking to people. But then two, like we can do more than just problem solve and we can proactively reach out to customers in the moments where we know like they're likely going to drop off or lose interest. And so I think like in previous roles I definitely had to do a lot of that convincing, and then like a lot of testing where I say like, okay, let's like launch this one proactive campaign with my team. Let's see, let's segment those customers. Let's look at that cohort and see how they perform, like months down the line. And I think that's the other hard problem is it's not immediate results, right? Like some of
Yeah.
these metrics are trailing. And so it's like, okay, 6 months later, are these customers more, do they have higher LTV than the customers that we didn't reach out in a similar segment? So I think like previously a lot of work had to be done, but now it's like I'm in a role now where, my leaders believe that CX does have a really big hand in the company's success. And so I'm kind of given that freedom and trust to build with that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And yeah, that's a very good place to be. Although we do find that occasionally this changes over time, that people need to kind of remind themselves why they believe that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, if I come in and I'm like, I have all this trust, and then I do nothing with it, it's like, okay, well, maybe you don't need all this money to to build your team. So it is like that. You have to prove it out, and make sure that you maintain that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Victor, let's shift gears a little bit and dig into the customer story. So, yeah, tell us what happened and what made it one you'll never forget.
Yeah. So this was from a few companies ago. I had this customer. Her name is Jill. I love Jill. I think about like me and Jill are friends on Instagram. Like that's how good the interaction went. But so Jill started as a pretty escalated customer. She went through like several layers of escalation. Like different people, and no one was really like helping her the way that she wanted to be helped. And so I jumped on a call with her, and it was like one of those conversations where like one, it reminds you that like the human connection is so crucial and really can kind of change perspective on a company. But then two, like I learned a lot on this call. So the reason that she was escalated was she was like a pretty loyal customer and ordered, I think, like weekly. And the product was frozen, but it kept arriving warm. And she was really upset because she just wanted the product, right? Like she was like, I love this product and you can't get it to me. So I think that like one was like, we need to fix this, right? We need to get her the food she actually wants to order from us. But then like two, like what is going on with this consistently an issue? And how do we make sure that this doesn't happen to other customers? Because my hunch was like people are canceling their subscription with us, not because they don't want the food, but because we can't successfully deliver it to them. So with Jill specifically, we were lucky because we were able to like, she lived in New York and we were able to like DoorDash product to her and it worked out. And, I ended up being her kind of like point person, which is really fun. Anytime that something came up, we would talk, like I would hop on the phone with her. And, again, really like gets to like how important human connection is and like feeling like you have somebody who has your back. But the other cool thing that came out of that interaction was it started kind of this cross-functional work across the entire business where we're like, okay, well, how many people are actually having these recurring issues where they're consistently getting warm orders? And what can we do to actually fix that? To make sure that like, if they've had two orders that were warm, what do we do to make sure the third order like 100% does not arrive warm? So I think that's like what I really love about this story was that we were able to take that and then build out a work stream around that like had layers of like operations being involved, the digital product team, CX, like we all got together to figure out what potential solutions we could unlock.
Awesome. And was the problem solved in the end, or is it one of those intractable things that like you can never?
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you get a lot of like you get a lot of the way there, but like it's never fully solved, and then like you have to constantly like push it to the top and be like, we need to continue to prioritize this. So not a perfect ending, but definitely like cool to see that work being done.
Yeah, that's the dream, I think, in this whole customer experience inside the space, is to actually like make sure that some action is being taken and you can see the results. And that happens surprisingly rarely, I guess, overall. First of all, I love this because it's one of those things I think everyone can relate to, having like warm food and so on being delivered. And it sounds like the team sort of did exactly the right things, like, escalate first to the point where, it got to yourself and then start those work streams to actually kind of address the problem. What would you kind of attribute in, first of all, like why this happened as opposed to, what maybe would happen in a lot of other places where like Jill would be treated as like, oh, there is this annoying customer, keep bugging us. Let's just, kind of ignore her or something like that, right? Like, so what was it about the company? What would you say? It's a culture, it's a process, it's kind of a...
Yeah, I think that like It's a bit of everything. I think the mentality of like every customer is important and like every experience is important, but like what I really took from that or why I really like found value in it was like this is probably impacting more than just more people than just Jill. And like it's probably a much larger issue. So I think going into every conversation with that lens of like whatever this customer is experiencing, like other people might be experiencing it also. And there might be an opportunity to improve the customer experience across the board. I think it's really easy to be like, well, looks like we can't deliver to Jill and like that's that and move on. But like how many people live in the same area as Jill that are ordering, especially in New York? And like it's probably a larger issue that needs to be resolved. So that's the way that you like, in my opinion, get better incrementally is by looking at those individual cases and trying to see like what the actual scope is and how many people might be impacted by something similar.
And do you try like either at that company or sort of now, like if you now that you're implementing a program from scratch, to kind of quantify this, like how many people actually have this specific problem? Like, is it big enough for us to start a work stream about and then so on? Like, and yeah, if so, then like maybe guide us a little bit how you're doing that.
Yeah, you have to get like really scrappy, honestly. So like I think early in my career, I realized that if I say this is a problem and like so many people are mad about it, no one's gonna listen. They're gonna be like, okay, CX person, sure. So you need to have data that you can actually use to back that up. And so like in this situation, I would probably look into like customers who have reported an incident or multiple incidents within X period of time. I think when we kicked off this work, we were trying to figure out like what is the right period of time? Like, is it like, you know, 3 incidents within 3 months? Is it three like back-to-back incidents? But what if those are spread out across a year? Like, I think like trying to figure out what the right time period or the right data set actually is. And then, um, you know, either partnering with your analytics team or in my case, I was like, I'm not waiting for the analytics team. They're so busy. I want to figure this out on my own. You know, learning how to use the systems across the business to be able to dig into that. So yeah, I think like you definitely need to come to the table with data and with like any way to kind of quantify, even if it is a little fuzzy or not perfect, like you need to be able to tell the story both qualitatively and quantitatively.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Um, I think you say like people don't trust like that CX person says. A
Yeah.
lot of people are complaining, but people equally probably trust even less when you say like, oh, there is like 5% of customers complaining about that without seeing like, you know, the actual complaints. So you need a combination of both. You know, at Chatterman, we've built our whole platform around that, like kind of combining these things, making them very easy to go from one to another, just because we've observed it over and over and over again that like no one trusts the numbers, but no one also trusts just the feedback itself. How do you kind of set up at Smalls, I guess, now, you know, so we talked a little bit about the process, you know, how do you quantify these things? But what do you set up in terms of a culture, in terms of the people you hire to the team to make sure that these kind of things happen in the same way?
Any chance that I have, I will kind of elevate my team, so my agents, all the way down to the front lines, and then also like find ways to empower them. So I think that if you are telling your team like you only use macros and these are the policies, and if you go against policy, then you'll like, you know, it'll impact your performance. Like that's never gonna work. So I feel it very strongly that you need to empower your agents to make the right decision, even if it like potentially could cost more money, right? Like as long as they're able to justify the decision that they're making, then I think that that is the right way to go. And also you'll like your team will think of creative solutions that like you never could have thought of. And I think you could really like inspire creative ways to solve problems for customers. So I think empowerment is a huge one, and like a team of people who like trust their guts and like want to like think that way when taking care of people. And then I think that like I also really like I tell my team to share feedback and to share like, you know, different like issues or experiences, and then also make sure that when they are sharing that, I'm sharing it with other teams so that they can see that their feedback is actually being taken seriously and listened to. And like, you know, whether it's actioned or not, I think closing the loop with those people as well is like really important. So I think it's all about trust, about like elevating your team, about including them in the rest of the organization so they know like I'm not just sitting here talking to angry people all day. Like I'm actually helping to improve this company that I care so much about. And then yeah, like I think like another thing that was like surprising to me starting here was um I like talked to my agents like quite a bit and they were like, wow, it's so nice to like talk to you. And like, yeah, so I think that like little things are really like impactful and can help build a really strong team culture.
Awesome. Awesome. And Victoria, I have kind of a couple of questions. So first of all, it wouldn't be a podcast in 2026 without asking you about AI. So, what kind of, how do you, if you do at all, kind of weave AI into this process? Obviously, like I think every CX team on the planet right now is thinking about AI, like either deploying it full speed ahead or for having like very strong reasons not to deploy it. We've had both kind of viewpoints on the show here. So what's your take at the moment?
Yeah, I think you need to use AI. I think that like you'll fall behind if you're not using AI in any capacity. And so what we're doing is we have like a chatbot that we've deployed. We're being really intentional about it and how we use it. And like I think that what is super important is if you're using AI, you can't, it's not like set it and forget it. And like I've created this bot and it's like great and that's it. It's like you need to invest heavily in it and making sure that you are constantly updating it, like training it, QAing it, and like it has to be a good experience and it has to improve the customer experience. So, for me, it's like customers can always get in touch with a human no matter what at any point. That is like non-negotiable. I think like another area where AI is really cool is like summarizing conversations and like one for like the agents and kind of the handoff experience so that the team can actually take that conversation and run with it. But then too, like voice of customer unlock is crazy. It's like I used to spend hours and hours like digging into conversations to find trends, and now I can just like prompt Claude or something and get exactly what I need in like 5 minutes, and then spend most of my time like actually analyzing that. So yeah, I think that teams definitely need to be using AI, but they need to be using it responsibly and consistently improving it.
And when you say like we deploy it thoughtfully, like are you talking about like we deploy it for some kind of user journeys and not others, or kind of some types of problems and not others? Like where does this kind of thoughtfulness comes in?
Yeah, I have this like cool tiered approach that I've built out where it's like start with like the really easy stuff that I know like AI will not mess up. So like
Where is my order? This kind of stuff, right?
Wismo is like the perfect, right? Like you just like kind of set that up and let it run and that like helps clear out the really easy questions. But and then I think from there it's just like layering in what you know for your business is more and more complex and likely will need human touch point. So it's like, roll out easy things first, do a ton of testing, make sure it's solid, and then layer on top of there. I also like think it depends on your tech setup too, because if you have Shopify, it's going to be so much easier to integrate versus if you have a homegrown backend, which is what we have at Smalls, which is like, a lot more complex and APIs and like integrating everything. So there's like a lot that goes into it. And I think you need to be prepared to break down everything before you jump in and say, I'm turning AI on.
And then the second question I had was on a slightly different topic. So I know you guys are also expanding beyond the D2C into the physical retail. So how does your kind of customer experience generally and your job in particular changes with those customers where you, I guess, like don't have a direct contact, at least not as easily?
Yeah, this is such a fun one because at Daily Harvest we did this, it's at Little Spoon we did this, and then at Smalls we're doing it where it's like, okay, we're expanding and now we are losing visibility into these customers and how they're purchasing and who they are and why they're considering not purchasing in the future. And so I think for me on the CX side, what I really want to do is make it as cohesive of an experience as possible. So if like somebody is reaching out because they bought something in a store that they didn't like we should do everything we can to take care of them and try to like, like help fix the problem, right? So like making a cohesive experience, whether it's D2C or shopping in person. What I think is really fun is like creating these customers who both shop D2C and in person, and like making this like kind of like hybrid customer. So this works specifically like particularly well with subscriptions where like cool, you have your weekly or biweekly order. If you need something in between, like you can jump to your local shop, here's the address, and pick up product, and then you're creating these kind of like super customers, I think. So that's the area I'm like really excited about.
I guess, curious, like for, those of our listeners, viewers who are maybe like starting a new role in DTC or are thinking about, changing how the customer experience happens. Anything apart from what we talked already, when you already given a lot of really actionable advice, anything specific you would give as an advice to, like if you were starting a new role, which I know you've just done, but still.
Yeah, I think the advice that I always lean into is like, don't be afraid to share feedback and to talk to other teams, because like this is an area where you really can make a difference and you can improve the customer experience. And it's like a little scary at first to be like, hey, a head of operations or whoever it is, right? Like this is an issue and I think that we should fix it. And like these are the ways to do it. Like it's scary, but I think like you should feel confident and empowered to do that, because they're going to they want to know the feedback that you have and the ways that they can improve as well. So I think like that would be my feedback, and like really focus on building cross-functional relationships, and like the same way that you would build a relationship with your team or a customer, like do that with leaders across the business so that you can start to
Right.
like gain that like kind of respect, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Then, Victoria, maybe we can shift gears again and go into our very exciting customer experience hot take round. I'm going to ask a series of questions. You can just go with your gut, answer something quick, or expand. And don't worry, we're not going to be very formal about it. So anyway, what's customer experience trend or buzzword that you wish would retire?
I hate I hate tickets. I hate when people say tickets instead of like interactions or conversations, because I think that it like really feeds into like the like just number, like move on to the next one. So ticket is the word that I hate.
Perfect. Yeah, that's been slowly dying, I think, already, right? Like I think most of the platforms have started moving, but it's still is very popular. Yeah, I know, definitely, especially in kind of IT support and stuff like that. Like it's very much still there. But I've been very happy to observe it kind of die over my time in the space. And what is a brand that you think is killing in customer experience? Like someone you look up to?
So I said Chewy before, so I'm not gonna say Chewy now. I like Bombas. I think Bombas is doing a really good job. Yeah, I had this like I placed an order like impulsively and then decided like immediately after that I didn't want it, and so I reached out, and it was actually an AI experience that was like really solid. It just canceled it for me. And I think about that all the time, because now I'm like, cool, I'll buy from Bombas anytime because I know I can cancel it if I change my mind.
I've had a very similar problem with a well-known retailer recently, and they didn't do that basically. So I decided I'll never order here again. I'll just buy through Amazon.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's actually I think the second time Bombas came up on our show. So yeah, great. They're definitely doing something right. Awesome. And what's one thing the industry, which let's say DTC in this case, still gets wrong about customer experience?
I think that while it is trending in the right direction, and like I talk about how like we're being taken more seriously like quite a bit, I think that there still is like this portion of the industry that sees CX as like a cost center and like just like problem solving. So I think like we're all of the CX leaders out there are saying like we're more than that and we like should be viewed as that. So I think this is still an area that like we're pushing on, and um hoping that everybody gets right soon.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a really good one. And Victoria, I know I already asked you about like I asked you about the brand that's killing, but you actually answered my next question about the good specific experience you've had, which is great. So maybe we'll just go to the next one, which is, we also ask like what was a, maybe experience where a brand fell short of your expectations. And I know working customer experience, your expectations are very high, but
I don't know. Is it like a cop out to say Amazon?
no, it's not.
it just is like always frustrating with Amazon that like I can't get in touch with a person. I need to go through like several hoops to be eligible to speak with a person. And then when I do speak with a person, they clearly were not empowered to make any decisions. And so I think that like that is like never become like Amazon. Sorry.
That's such an interesting one because I guess like Amazon, they kind of wrote the book on customer experience, right? And they in fact like got famous for exactly that. That like their people were amazing customer service early on, but I think they very much sort of veered kind of away from that. Like I think they actually do deliver customer service or customer experience. That's pretty good, but the service bit has definitely been going downhill. Um, and I guess I'm curious. I've never worked directly in the space, so I'm curious. Like, what do you think? Like, is that something that like just inevitable at scale, or do you think they just kind of, yeah?
I might be naive in saying that like you should always be able to scale and not lose that like human connection element, even if it is kind of fabricated. But it feels like with Amazon, that's not even.
The goal.
Yeah, like it really feels like the goal is just deflection and like get this out of the way versus like a continued relationship. I mean, they don't need to do that clearly, but like it is always like this thing that I think of where I'm like, okay, I'm buying on Amazon. I like hope that I don't have an issue because it's going to be annoying.
Yeah, no. My personal pet peeve with Amazon lately is that like whenever you search for a product, you get like 1,000 kind of little alternatives that are all kind of crap, but you have no way to tell which one is good, which one is not, and like separate like the real brands from knockoffs and this kind of stuff. And it just like frustrates me to no end that okay, I spend a lot more time finding the product now than I did in the past. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that.
Victoria, yeah, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Thanks so much for being here and for sharing your insights. That I think there's so much that people can take away from this conversation and from the lessons you've shared. To all of our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode of How to Love a Customer, please be sure to hit subscribe, tell a friend, share on social media, and join us next time for more stories to show the power of listening to your customers.